Howdy, welcome back to RC Restomod. Today we're going to cover part 2 of the teardown of our backyard slash. It's a bit long, I'm sorry about that. You are going to see one part where I'm riding the struggle bus pretty hard for a little bit, trying to get the slipper clutch off. And I'll kind of explain when we're going back together why I had difficulty there, but we conquered that and moved on. The reason I didn't want to cut it is I'm not trying to present myself as an expert in any way. I'm just a guy who's kind of figured out some stuff over the past couple of years, and I want to share what I've learned with you guys. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, great. A subscription and a like would do me, do my heart wonders. And if you've learned a little something, please let me know in the comments. If you're bored as heck with the teardown, you want me to move along, drop that in the comments too. Let's get a good dialogue going, because I want to put a channel together that's the kind of stuff you guys want to see. So if you like it, great. If not, great. Just let me know and I'll kind of change things up to try to make it to where the most people get the most benefit from it. Anyway, here's teardown part 2. Y'all have a great day. All right, so we've got all the pieces from the front suspension in the ultrasonic cleaner getting all clean and shiny. While that's happening, we can take the back end apart. So once again, we're just going to indiscriminately remove parts until it's decimated, until it's all scattered everywhere. Pull that away. I'm looking at the top. I don't see where the rear suspension is tied to the main chassis piece from the top anywhere. So yeah, perhaps right there. And this screw is way too long for the hole it's in. That'll be something we'll correct. When you're messing with a used RC car and you find really long screws where they don't belong, that's a pretty good indication that somewhere along the line you're going to find some short screws somewhere where they don't belong. Pull off this mismatched wheel. Okay. Found it. It looks as though it's only Where's my 2.5? That doesn't matter, need a 2.0. Finally coming out. That screw only needs to be about yay long. It does not need to be this long. Shouldn't be such a pain to get off. Alright. That'll be the third part that we come back and mess with. But right now, we got this thing to take apart. And it's good fun to take these big pieces like this apart. That appears to be loose, but that's okay. Just gives us a bit of a head start. Okay, right here, I'm going to start by removing our pinion gear. Ooh, that wasn't tight enough. And you should always put Loctite. Anywhere you've got a metal screw going into metal, a little dab of blue Loctite will save you a bunch of trouble. So we'll take that loose. Then we'll go after those special motor mounting screws. The motor's out. Small block Chevy of RC right there. 12 turn Titan. That one won't come out because the spur gear's in the way. So let's pull the spur gear out real quick. 2.5. So that's loose. That is loose. That one's very, very, very loose. Now we need that to come off, so let's rotate and pry, rotate and it's not wanting to come off the easy way. So we got a bit of a problem getting this thing apart. We are going to have to just pry the spur gear. The spur gear fits tight on that bearing in the center of it there. The problem I've got right now is that I can't hold this thing tight. one of the screws back in there, but I really don't think it's going to help anything. No. Have to get creative. Let's set a couple of tires on it. Got quite the challenge here. Well, we'll just go ahead and take it apart and see if we can find something once the transmission's all apart. Let's leave that on. Another Phillips screw that's hiding on this thing. It's weird, my first RC car was a Traxxas Slash, it was a four-wheel drive VXL Slash. And I don't believe it has a single Phillips screw on it, and we found 5 on this two-wheel drive so far. Slide around. There we go. Once again, we're just gonna take that part and set it off to one side. Continue taking this part apart. That's another 2.5. It's another one of these with a few threads right up by the head. And then just a long smooth pin. And this one's nowhere near as bad as the ones in the front. It's still pretty shiny and clean. You don't want to grab onto the threads. That's still tight. See if we can back it out some more. I'm not grabbing on, I'm want to get it close and then kind of pry out on it as I turn the screw and see if that'll make it come out. Alright, we got it started out pretty good. I'll get a grip on it with the pliers and give it a tug. There it goes. Take off, take the shock off the top part. There's another one of those special shock screws with the shoulder on it. Okay. Well, they used a screw similar to the motor mounting screw to give it clearance for the dry shaft back here. That's new knowledge to me. We can't take it off on the other side because we have a spur gear in the way. Very loose. I'm surprised that stayed on. Looks like it has to come all the way out. Yeah, it's another special screw. Looks like a set screw or grub screw, except it's another one of their pins with threads right up by the head, and then the rest of it is a long pin. So we don't want to lose that for sure. This one, it's gonna have to be lined up just so to be able to get it. And once again, way too loose. And it was going into metal, so a little Loctite would have been Very wise. There we go. Now it's in the light. It's about as loose as I can get it. Now let's add me a little screwdriver action. There we go. That's off. Now we got to see if putting a little pressure there will hold the and it did. Okay, this is your slipper clutch. And what that does is when you make like if you're jumping the vehicle and your tires are spinning while you're in the air, or they're still while you're in the air, when you make contact with the ground, that's a heck of a shock load to come back through and hit your motor and all the gears up here in your transmission. So the slipper clutch just softens that blow a little bit. It's got a spring to set the tension on it. This part, the spur gear here, turns on a bearing so that if it slips on the shaft, it can do so freely. It has little friction. These are like brake pads on a car, and they are a separate part. We should be able to get that to push out pretty easily. Right there, and you can see that tension, the pressure of that riding on this friction plate here, the friction between this smooth piece of metal and these little pads, this should be what actually propels your vehicle forward. This piece is just pressed on. There it goes. And it gets positioned down over this little pin that actually drives it. Now we can pull out that screw. I would like to separate, oh, that is loose, loose, loose. So let's go in here and let's take the shock towers off the transmission so that we can split it. All right, shock tower's loose. And we start looking at the transmission. We're missing a screw here and here and here and here. I suspect somebody's been in here before. Hopefully they got it fixed. Yeah, and this one's like, this is what I think way too short a screw because it didn't have any threads biting. So it's the wrong, it's missing a bunch of screws and there's a wrong screw. But don't worry, yeah, it's way too short. When it goes back together, we'll make it all right. And I have confidence in that because we have resources to show us exactly what needs to go where. I'll share those with you when we put it back together. But once I do, you should have confidence to take yours apart, just like I'm doing mine. Yes, all this black grease is definitely not Traxxas issue. All right, this piece right here, when we pull it out, this is your differential. And what a differential does, when you go around a corner, the outside tire is taking a longer path than the inside tire, and therefore it needs to spin faster. This allows that to happen. As you see, as I'm going to hold this end flat and I'll spin this end. But when the gears turn against the differential and spin it, it can spin both of them. Now, if one of them has traction and the other doesn't, the one that doesn't have traction spins like crazy, and that's the downside of an open differential. The upside is that it lets you turn easier. You can go in here and put things inside the differential to lock it up, and it'll make it take off hard in a straight line. It won't spin the tires anywhere near as easy, but it's not going to turn worth a crap either. So it's all a big trade-off. Just like most anything else when you're dealing with cars, it's all a trade-off. It'll make it better at one point and worse at another. Well, let's go ahead and take the differential apart so you can kind of see how it works. This grease is nasty. Don't worry, we'll clean it all out. Coming apart here. Nasty back grease again. But it's going to be really difficult to demonstrate that because of the nastiness of the grease it's filled up with. So we'll just set this off to one side and we'll show it when we go back together when it's much cleaner. But we have more bearings in here, and let's check them. They've been living in grease, so they're probably still pretty good. And they are, they're just fine. That bearing feels good, but we may go ahead and replace it just because it's so hard to get to. And this little shaft that your idler turns on just sits in there with a little washer. Okay. I'll just remove it that way. That bearing's pretty good, but pretty dirty. This grease is just nasty. It's got to go away. Now we've got to figure out what is up with these metal drive shafts. These are something that I don't have any experience working with, are the Traxxas metal drive shafts. Both of my other Slashes, the 2-wheel drive and the 4-wheel drive, use plastic drive shafts. Okay. So that has a pin that goes through it, but I don't see how the pin is retained. I think we'll have to do a little research, but I think it may be supposed to have little rubber caps like the other end does that are responsible. So we're gonna have to do a little learning here. I'm gonna have to learn what retains that pin. Okay, let's get this mess apart real quick. Shot off. We'll do a shock rebuild at the very end. Okay. We really need to figure out how to get these bearing carriers apart so we can pull out the wheel bearings. All right. I don't know if you can see how far this is walking back and forth, but that's not right. We're going to have to figure out what's wrong there and put a fix on that, because that'll wear out bearings and cause issues. There it goes. This is just like the front. Oh, they're missing parts of that bearing. That could be why it was sliding around. All the balls are gone. Now there's the inner race from our bearing. That means that may be just a little bit tough to get out, because we're not going to be able to get a screwdriver on the back side of it. That's going to take some figuring. Oh, there's that one. But see, if I try to push through, I'm going to miss that completely. Oh, maybe not. Got lucky. Okay, that one's apart. So that one doesn't have any play that way, but man, it feels crunchy going this way. Tells me the bearings are bad in it, so let's expose them for what they are. Get that out. Get that out. Push that out. So it kind of shaped that bearings in. Yeah, it's junk. It's junk. That one's not much better. Anyway, there's our rear suspension taken apart. Yeah, see, I think that rubber is what is supposed to contain your, I think that's what retains your pins. I have to see if that part's replaceable or if it's a situation where you have to buy a whole new set of metal drive shafts, because if we have to buy a whole new set of metal drive shafts, it's going to go back plastic, because these are not cheap and it is not in the budget to replace them. So if we peel back the rubber, we can access that little pin and push it out. And get that part apart, and that'll give us an opportunity to put fresh grease up in the joint. Hopefully I can buy new little boots like that. I'm sure they'll be special order, but if they're available, that puts us way ahead. All right, and that's the disassembly of the back end of it. I'll come back to you when we have clean parts. All right, guys, the fruits of our labor. The rear skid plate got some issues. I think this piece here has got a break in it on this side. That part didn't come out great. If we end up having to reuse it, actually the screws that go through here and here will hold it back in position, and we'll just rub it down with some Armor All or some kind of substance like that to make it look good again. But the rest of the plastic pieces, you can see, came out pretty dang clean from the ultrasonic cleaner. And it's all ready to go back again. Our hardware came out pretty good except for these pins. Man, I thought the back ones were pretty decent, but they just didn't come very clean, and the corrosion on them is much deeper than I thought. So I looked it up, and a full set of pins for a slash is like $4.50. So we're gonna just get new ones for that. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on RC Restomod.